What began as a routine commercial flight over the Caribbean suddenly turned into a high-risk encounter in the sky. A JetBlue aircraft climbing out from Curaçao found itself face-to-face with danger, not from weather, not from turbulence, but from a U.S. military aircraft flying unseen. And now, the aircraft's pilot is lashing out at the U.S. military plane. A JetBlue pilot has described a U.S. Air Force tanker flying directly into his path as outrageous after the military aircraft crossed their flight route without a working transponder, leaving radar blind spots and forcing abrupt evasive action. The incident underscores rising tensions in skies above the Caribbean, where military activity has surged as the U.S. expands pressure on Venezuela. Reports say the military jet appeared in the JetBlue flight's path roughly 20 minutes into the flight from Curaçao to New York. With its transponder off, the aircraft was invisible on air traffic radar, a failure the pilot blasted in communications recorded by liveatc.net. The Airbus A320 had to halt its climb, then descend sharply to avoid collision, a maneuver air traffic control acknowledged it could not see on radar. The Federal Aviation Administration had already warned airlines of a potentially hazardous situation near Venezuelan airspace, citing increased military flights and deteriorating security conditions. Now, at this near miss, questions are mounting about command coordination, tracking systems, and safety protocols amid a complex geopolitical backdrop. What happened in the sky? JetBlue Flight 1112, an Airbus A320 bound for New York from Curaçao, was cruising when it encountered a U.S. Air Force tanker. According to reports from Aviation Safety Network and recordings obtained by liveatc.net, the tanker flew directly into JetBlue's path at the same flight level, prompting urgent evasive action. The JetBlue pilot, whose remarks were captured on the audio feed, called the situation outrageous, emphasizing that the military aircraft lacked an operating transponder and was invisible to radar. No transponder, no radar contact, he said, describing how crews were left with seconds to react to avoid a catastrophic collision.
1112, go ahead.
Sir, we just had traffic pass directly in front of us within 5 miles of us, maybe 2-3 miles, but it was an air-to-air refueler from the United States Air Force, and he was at our altitude. We had to stop our climb.
Confirm the traffic was at your altitude.
They're heading off to the northeast right now. They passed directly in our flight path. We had to stop our climb. They are not painting. They don't have their transponder turned on. It's outrageous. If you can make a note of it, we almost had a mid-air collision up here.
Amid a U.S. naval buildup in the Caribbean and President Donald Trump's threats to strike so-called narco-terrorists, a fresh United States-Venezuela drama has erupted. A commercial passenger jet nearly collided mid-air with a U.S. military aircraft off the Venezuelan coast. The incident occurred on Friday, according to the Associated Press and the New York Times. JetBlue 1112, an Airbus A320, was traveling from Curaçao to New York's JFK Airport when it encountered a U.S. Air Force refueling tanker. Flight tracking data and radio communications show the military aircraft was a KC-135R Stratotanker operating at 34,000 feet as part of Operation Southern Spear. Critically, the tanker did not have its transponder switched on, making it effectively invisible to civilian aircraft systems. 20 minutes after takeoff, the JetBlue aircraft suddenly lost altitude mid-climb. The pilot issued a stark warning over the radio, saying they had almost had a mid-air collision.
If you can make a note of it, we almost had a mid-air collision up here.
The aircraft passed directly through their flight path with no transponder signal detected. The pilot described the situation as outrageous, highlighting the extreme danger posed to passengers and crew. JetBlue 1112 continued safely and later landed without further incident.
Curacao, JetBlue 1112.
1112, go ahead.
Sir, we just had traffic pass directly in front of us within 5 miles of us, maybe 2-3 miles, but it was an air-to-air refueler from the United States Air Force, and he was at our altitude. We had to stop our climb.
Confirm the traffic was at your altitude.
They're heading off to the northeast right now. They passed directly in our flight path. We had to stop our climb. They are not painting. They don't have their transponder turned on. It's outrageous.
JetBlue 1112, yes, I don't have anything on my scope. It has been outrageous with the unidentified aircraft within our airspace. You are totally right, sir.
Oh, I apologize. If you can make a note of it, we almost had a mid-air collision up here.
Yes, sir. We will make a note.
On Sunday, JetBlue confirmed that the incident was formally reported to authorities. A company spokesman praised the crew for following procedures and escalating the matter
immediately. If you can make a note of it, we almost had a mid-air collision up here.
The U.S. military has acknowledged the reports. Southern Command spokesman Colonel Manny Ortiz said the matter is now under review and insisted safety remains a top priority. He added that appropriate channels are being used to assess the facts surrounding the incident as scrutiny grows over military operations near busy civilian air routes. The near collision comes amid escalating tensions between the United States and Venezuela. Since September, U.S. forces have killed more than 80 people in strikes on alleged cartel boats in the region. U.S. President Trump said the operations target narco-trafficking.
But we knocked out 96% of the drugs coming in by water, and now we're starting by land, and by land is a lot easier, and that's going to start happening. And we're not going to have people destroying our youth, destroying our families. Forget about youth, everybody. You ever see a family with the fentanyl or cocaine? Colombia has at least 3 cocaine factories. That's a different country. We're not happy about it, but we're stopping it, and we've stopped it now on water. You don't even find boats on water. You don't even see fishing boats on water. You want to go fishing in that area? Does anybody want to go fishing in that area?
We talked about land strikes happening soon. Is there anything at this point that can prevent that? And is the objective, if you make that decision,
well, I don't want to say that, but it's not only land strikes on Venezuela. It's land strikes on horrible people that are bringing in drugs and killing our people. You know, if we were in a war and we lost 300,000 people in a year, because that's what the real number is. It's not 100. You know, you keep hearing 100. And it's a lot worse than that because the families are devastated when they lose their child. If we were in a war and we lost 200,000 or 300,000, but I think it's more than 300,000, and that's a war that's like a war that would be unparalleled. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. And that's what's happening. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in Venezuela. It's people that are bringing in drugs to our country are targets.
Washington claims the Venezuelan government is using maritime routes to flood the U.S. with drugs. Caracas has strongly denied the allegations, calling the strikes a colonialist plot. Venezuela says the operations aim to topple President Nicolas Maduro and seize the country's natural resources.